of the pressure group Regard, and Melody Maker in the dock. The music paper faces disabled critics. This and more, tonight, from The Edge.
Stronger disabled person was when I entered mainstream sixth form. There are plenty of disabled people into making music, but the music industry is not always one of the most welcoming of places, judging by some of the language about disability used in Melody Maker, one of the industry's best-known publications.
I was always considered a bit of a spaz at school. Have you ever seen a cripple dance? A one-legged man at an arse-kicking party.
I first noticed this kind of language about 5 or 6 years ago. The kind of language that it was is what I heard all the time around me at school, and it was the words spastic, cripple, mong. But especially at the time of the 1990s, they were describing Bears out of the Happy Mondays as his dance was the mong dance, because he danced in this kind of jerky way, and that was meant to be how disabled people danced. It's an issue in Melody Maker because what they write is confrontational and looks violent to me. What happens is that some young kid will read, ooh, Chumbawamba, one-legged man at an arse-kicking party, and they will go and kick you in the street.
It spreads like wildfire, that sort of flippant attitude to anything, because being rude is funny, isn't it, in our culture. I don't want 13-year-olds thinking it's funny to call me a spastic when I've been drumming professionally for 13 years. I don't need it.
We took some of Suzanne's grievances to IPC magazines to see how they felt about the campaign and what they intended to do about it.
In the 3 or 4 years that I've been the features editor of Melody Maker and the millions of words I've had to read, I'd say out of all of those, I'd say the 2 or 3 occasions when ill-judged jokes, in inverted commas, have been made, I'd be very, very upset if anyone really took umbrage with that content.
I just had a phone call from Matt because he knew that I was looking at Melody Maker very, very closely, and Matt said, look what Caitlin Moran has written about Stephen Hawking.
Cooler than Stephen Hawking, suddenly standing up, talking in a normal voice and admitting he'd been having a bit of a laugh.
And I said, right, this is it. I'll phone round everybody else, all other disabled people, and show them this kind of stuff and say, what do you think? I phoned Grey Eye Theatre Company, I phoned London Disability Arts Forum. To see what they had to say, I phoned National Disability Arts Forum as well. And that's how I said, right, we should do something about this, we've got to.
The catalyst for me was when I read the review by the Studd brothers, who are a very sensationalist team of journalists. They like to get people writing angry letters on most subjects, blacks, women, gay, and now it's disabled, about Simon Smith's album.
Say you'd rather die than end up looking like me. You say you think I'm brave because you think life's worse for me.
Back in 1993, we released an album entitled, and it was entitled, and we sent them a copy for review. They did review it, which we were quite pleased about, but they were so disablist that my blood boiled. Wanted to burn their place down.
Now I don't need your patronising money.
Well, Simon may be differently abled when it comes to eating, drinking and taking a piss.
I didn't really care what they said about the music, because we knew that it wasn't really their cup of tea.
But when it comes to making music, his imagination is as crippled as any of the dour, poncified pub rockers he admires.
I don't think jokes are funny.
I was very angry about the fact that they really were talking out their backsides. They didn't understand any of the issues, what they were talking about.
In societies, he demands access. Access to everything. Buildings, social activities, people's hearts.
They hadn't really even listened to the words in the songs which dealt with those issues, in which case they probably would have understood better.
If he wants access, he's going to need an awful lot of our money, whether it's 50p's lobbed in tins or another penny in the pound on income tax.
I don't care.
They know that they couldn't get away with talking about gender issues or race issues in the way they did about disability. They kind of be burnt to the ground, I think. So I think they realise that there can be a backlash to what they say.
We, meanwhile, will continue lobbing 50p's in tins and vociferously opposing any tax increases whatsoever.
It's also left them with egg on their face because they like to be anti-establishment, and they've come out looking more establishment than possible.
For the way society's so unfair.
Melody Maker portrays disabled people as useless, passive, dependent, sad, tragic.
We would never go out of our way to insult a disabled person. We may be anti-politically correct, but then youth culture and rock music has always been about irreverence and anti-establishment and all that kind of thing. It's always been synonymous with nihilism and revolt. I don't think that's anything new, but I don't think that is necessarily synonymous with being offensive to people that might unfortunately find themselves disabled.
It's kind of like this, what you call an anti-PC backlash, I suppose. But what people don't actually understand is I'm not talking about political correctness, I'm talking about being misrepresented, and I am none of these things that I see written about myself in Melody Maker.
We at Melody Maker do not have a policy whatsoever about disabled people or any section of the community at all. We write about pop groups.
I want an apology, and I make no secret of that.
I can't really imagine if the 3 unfunny jokes that have been made since 1987 have done so much damage to the disabled people in the community that they would really genuinely require compensation, or even for us to address their dilemma in print because of what we've said.
I want a proper policy on writing about disabled people. I want to present them with a proper policy that they should be following anyway.
I mean, our policy is not to discriminate in regard to sex, race, ability, disability. We don't discriminate in any way, shape or form. OK, we haven't got a, in inverted commas, disabled writer. Maybe we should do. But I'll say that I've been here 7 years, I've been a features editor for 3 years. I haven't had a disabled writer approach me asking for a job.
I want disabled people, you know, to air their views in the music paper, just as other minorities have had a chance to do. The problem is that disabled people haven't got an anti-discrimination law. And that's why they can get away with it, that's why they can do it.
We'll have to wait and see if Melody Maker does clean up its act. But one thing's for sure is Suzanne and the rest of the campaigners won't ease up on the pressure until it becomes a magazine that we can read without taking its insults on the chin. Until then, let's get on with the music. Start spreading the news.
Off the Edge.